All right, so if you've noticed, I'm back on number 4. I have erased the synthetic division box. I've got the part that I'm going to work on factoring. And when I look at how to factor this, because there's 4 terms, I'm going to group them. In my first set of parentheses, I can take out an x squared, and then I'm left with 2x minus 5, which is what I need from the second set of parentheses. And to do that, I'm going to take out a negative 1. You have to take something out. So my final parentheses are the x squared minus 1 and the 2x minus 5. And those 2 sets of parentheses will be going into my complete list of factors. So I'm going to start with those. X squared minus 1 give me the 1 and the negative 1 that I did not want to cheat with. And then I get 2x minus 5, which is one that I couldn't quite tell on the graph, so I never listed it. But if I set that equal to 0, I'd add the 5, and then I would divide by the 2. I'll get 2.5. But then again, remember, I did cheat with the 2, so I'm going to list that in my complete list of factors. And when I go for my list of parentheses, x minus 2 would get me there. My y-intercept is negative 10, and even though it is graphed for you, you still graph it. So when I graph it, here's my negative 10. On the negative side, I just have negative 1. And on the positive side, I have 1, 2, and 2.5. And going back to the original equation, this time I have a u because of the 4th power. And it goes up here and up there. And since all of the points are different, 1 and negative 1 are different, it's going through all the points. There you go. And, you know, I don't make it look like the graph that's given to you guys. I don't need to. This is close enough. Okay? All right, so that's the first 4 problems. Let's go to the back. And we're going to start with number 5. Again, first thing I want to try, is it factorable? Because there are 4 terms, I'm going to group it. And it looks like it could be factorable. So in the first set of parentheses, I can take out an x squared, and then I'm left with x plus 9, which is what I'm doing here. And what am I taking out of my second set of parentheses to get there? I'm taking out a negative 4. So in answer to my question, is it factorable? Yes. Don't fill out your list. You don't need it. And now I can come up with my complete list of factors. The x plus 9, which in my x-intercepts is negative 9, which you can see on the graph right here. And then my other set of parentheses, x squared minus 4, which when I set that equal to 0, I'd add the 4 and take the square root of 4, which is 2 and negative 2, which are these 2 points. My y-intercept is negative 36, and now I'm going to graph it. So on the negative side, I have negative 9. And on the positive, and negative 2, sorry. And on the positive side, I have 2, and then negative 36 is my y-intercept. The odd power makes it a line up on the right, down on the left. All the points are different, so it's going through. And there's my line. All right, let's take a look at number 6. Number 6. Um, Number 6, you know what? I might think it could be factorable, but this is an x cubed and then an x. And we haven't worked with anything like that. So is this factorable? No, it's not factorable. So that means I'm going to come up with my p over q list. P is 30. That's a lot of factors for 30. And q is 1. The good thing is, though, if I put down all my factors of 30 and put them over all my factors of 1, I'm just essentially writing down my factors of 30. So that's what I'm going to do here. And again, you can use the factor program, you can use the golden page, or you can just use your head. So here we go. And I have written down 8 numbers, but there are really 16 because there's the positive and the negative version of 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15, and 30. So since it wasn't factorable and they don't give me a clue, again, I would take the equation, put it into the graphing calculator. I've done that for you. And which ones does this look like? Looks like negative 5 here, looks like 2, and that looks like 3. and I'm pretty certain about all of them, so I can cheat with any of them. Now, if you look up the answer key, I cheated with 2. You know what, this time I'm going to cheat with -5. So when I'm done, I should have 0 at the end. I am missing an x squared, so that's why I'm going to be putting in the 0. Don't forget to check that. I get 0. The 0 is my remainder, and I'm going to get the constant x and x squared. And so now I'm going to try to factor this. So I'm going to go to my x. A times c is 6. B is -5. So when I go for factors here, I'm going to choose -2 and -3. 6 and 1 will get me there, but I won't get +6 and -5. So I have to choose -2 and -3. Again, because it's just an x squared, this is simple factoring. I can go straight to x minus 2 and x minus 3. And now I can add those into my list of complete lists of factors. So x minus 2, that will give me the 2 I did not cheat with. X minus 3 will give me the 3 that I did not cheat with. But remember, I did cheat with -5, and the parentheses that would have gotten me there were x plus 5. Y-intercept is 30, and now I'm going to graph it. So y-intercept 30, on the negative side, I have -5. Don't forget to label your points. This one, because of the odd power, it's going to be a line up on the right, down on the left. Now here goes your u. Or I'm sorry, your line. I keep mixing that up. All right, 2 more to go. Let's see if we can get these done in the final increment. All right, number 7. So going back to the directions on the first page, I'm just going to reread them. It says solve for x, finding the zeros, finding the x-intercepts. If you can factor, you're expected to do so. And then it says remember to try V1 first, and don't forget that your graph might bounce. Number 7 is a problem where you need to do V1. You have to take something out of the original equation because if you don't do it now, you're going to have to do it later. So when I look, what can I take out of all 3 terms? I can take out an x squared. So that x squared is coming into the list of factors. Hold on. All right. Now, when I set x squared equal to 0, what's going to make that worth 0? It's 0. But remember, square roots have a positive and negative answer. And again, I know that 0 doesn't have a positive and a negative answer, but you need them listed twice because since they're listed twice, that means it's going to bounce off of 0. Okay? Now, once I take that x squared out, this is what I'm left with. 12x to the 4th minus 8x squared minus 15. When I look at all my ways to factor, I can't group because there's only 3 terms. There aren't any cubes because there's 3 terms and I see a 4th power. So I'm going to go to my x, and I'm going to take 12 times -15, which is -180. And my b is -8. And when I use my factor program, I come up with 10 and -18 as my 2 side numbers. The last time I did this method, I used the old version. Now I'm going to use the new version and take the original equation and just rewrite it into 4 terms, just so you guys can see the difference. All right, again, it's still 12x to the 4th, and I still have my -8x. I've just broken it down, and then -15. But since there's 4 terms, now I'm going to group. In my first set of parentheses, I can take a 2 and an x squared out, and when I do that, I'm left with 6x squared plus 5. And that means I need the same on the other set of parentheses. So what am I taking out of that to get to 6x squared plus 5? I'm taking out -3. And now I can add those into my complete list of factors. So joining the x squared will be the 6x squared plus 5. You know, if I set that equal to 0, I'll subtract 6 and divide by 5, and I'll be taking the square root of a negative number. So, oh, I'm sorry, no I won't. It's just 6x plus 5. How many of you caught that? So when I take out the 6x plus 5, let me fix it up here. I can set that equal to 0. I'll subtract 5 and divide by 6. So I get negative. All right, sorry about that. It is squared. I'm losing my marbles. Sorry, guys. So I take that back. I will get i's because I'm doing the square root of a negative number. Sorry about that. All right, then for my other set of parentheses, 2x squared minus 3. I could go back and start over, but I really don't want to. All right, so when I take 2x squared minus 3 and set that equal to 0, I'm going to add 3, and I'm going to divide by 2. And when I take the square root of that, I get positive and negative 1.2. I'm going to write that in black so it stands out. All right, now I'm ready to graph a y-intercept of 0. I didn't have to do the p over q list because it was factorable. So I'm going over to graph. I got the 0, and then I've got 1.2 and negative 1.2. And it's a u, so it's going up from the left, and it's going up from the right. And remember, it's bouncing off of 0 because that appeared twice in my x-intercept. So when I turn to get to the 0, it bounces off, comes back down, and goes back up. All right, I think we can get the last one in without having to start over. So first thing I'm going to try to do is factor this, so I would group it. You know, in the first set of parentheses, I can take a 4 and an x squared out, and I'm left with 2x plus 3. I can't get 2x plus 3 out of the second set of parentheses, so I can't factor. So is it factorable? No. Do I have to come up with the p over q list? Yes. This one's not going to be fun. P is 15, q is 8. So my factors of 15. And now I'll write down the factors of 8. And all these factors of 15 have to go over 1, then they have to go over 2 and 4 and 8. So first, just starting out with the 1, I'm going to have just the numbers themselves. When I put them over 2, I'm going to have 1 half, 3 halves, 5 halves, and 15 halves. And then I'm going to put them all over 4. So going down here, I have 1/4, 3/4, 5/4. And then again, I have to do this with my 15. So I'm going to have 15 halves, 15 fourths, and 15 eighths. There's a lot of them. And yes, you do have to write them down. Now, I already noticed I put this in the wrong spot, so that should have gone up here in the plus or minus. So I'll just put my factors there. All right, which ones stand out in my graph? Oh, none of them really stand out. So I'm going to take a leap of faith and think maybe that might be 2.5, and this might be negative 1.5. And I'm going to try with the negative 1.5. So here we go. Hopefully that is one of them. I mean, it's in my list. There's 3 halves. That's negative 1.5. So here we go. Filling in my numbers because I'm going to run out of time. Fill in my x's. And now I'm going to factor. So I'm going to take a times c. That gives me 80. I'll put b here. My side numbers, and actually, you know what? I can make this a little bit easier. I'm going to take a 2 out of everything just to make it easier to work with. And now when I go for this, I'll have 20 and 12, and that'll be negative 10 and negative 2 on the sides. So factoring really fast, I'm about to run out of time, and I'm not going to finish it. So that's it. I would suggest you just ask me in class for this one.